All right, you're up.
Okay, I'm Tom Rapino, Alderman, Place 3. It is now, 18, or at 6:37. And we're having the inaugural meeting of the Park, Sandy Oaks Park Committee, or should I say Shady Oaks? No, I'm sorry. It's Tuesday, July 23rd at 18:37 or 6:37, and we'll get a quorum call, I guess.
I'll do your quorum call for you.
Okay.
Okay, Charles Fillinger,
Present.
John Crickmer,
Here.
Norma Graham, is not here, Rue Carvajal,
Here, yes, you said it right.
Ann Garza,
Here.
Jennifer Godoy,
Here.
and you have a quorum.
We have a quorum, so we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first order of business would be to discuss and/or possible action on adopting Robert's Rules of Order as a parliamentary procedure utilized by the Park Committee. Now, I don't know if some of you may be aware of Robert's Rules for Order, and it's a way to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak, that the whole meeting is fair. We use it at the city council meeting, and most formal meetings use Robert's Rules of Order. You can look it up online if you're in doubt about anything, but that's the procedure we'll use to conduct the meetings in the future and today's. I don't think we need do you think we need a parliamentarian? If we do, does then,
Well, first of all, I don't think we have that on the agenda
no.
to discuss.
Well, I was,
Well, I guess we could.
could,
As
because
part of that
it's
discussion.
discussion, yeah. So, would anybody that has a lot of knowledge about Robert's rules, and
I can supply cheat sheets to everybody so that we're all on the same page.
Charles is a bit of a,
I know Charles is,
he
and
knows
that's who I was
quite a
looking
bit
at.
of that.
I read up on it, but I'm sure that, Charles, if you see something wrong, you'll let us know. Thank you.
I will call a point of order
Okay,
If necessary.
if necessary.
right. So we have that established.
We need to,
I would like to make a motion that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order as the parliamentary procedure for meetings of the Park Commission, or Committee.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
And then
so
we ask for discussion because someone may
Yeah.
oppose my
Right,
motion,
yeah.
sir.
Does it, is there any discussion? If there are no discussions, can I see if anyone, well, there's two ways to do it. I can ask for a vote. Would we now take a vote? If anybody that wants
would-
to approve this?
yeah, I'd say all in favor.
Yeah, all in favor? It's unanimous. We adopted Robert's Rules of Order.
And did you want to have a secondary motion
For the
to establish a
parliamentarian?
parliamentarian?
Yeah. And Charles has been gracious enough to say he would be the parliamentarian for the meeting. Is there any discussion? Does anybody have any issues with that? If not,
We need a
can I have
motion and a
motion?
second.
Can I have a
Propose
motion? Yeah,
For Charles to be our parliamentarian for
okay.
the park committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Wait, who
All-
got the second? Ruth?
Ruth, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor? Oh, I don't vote. Yeah.
Actually, I think on a committee, he does vote. Yes.
Okay.
You may vote.
I'll vote too.
Okay. And so Charles is abstaining, which is typically when it's a motion that is about a particular individual. They typically do not vote, they abstain.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I was thinking of, and I guess we have it taken care of, whether we needed a scribe or someone to take minutes, so.
Well, here's what we have found is, and Cassandra has blessed this, if we have audio recordings, we do not have to have written minutes. And so for all of the committees and the subcommittees and everything that's going on, we're really relying on these recordings instead of scribe notes. It just makes it easier for everybody. The meetings typically aren't as long as the city council meetings. So that's, if you want to
Yeah,
do that, it's
Yeah.
it's an option.
okay, I'll make a motion that we rely on the,
Well, before you do that,
you know,
I think we need to move on to number 4. I think that would be part of number 4.
okay, we can do that.
Because minutes are addressed on there.
Yeah, okay. Number 4, discuss and possible action on establishing procedures related to committee agendas, meetings, and minutes. Yes, I see that. How often do you think we should meet as a consensus of once a month? Does that seem optimal? And we can always have a special meeting, I suppose, if we wanted to.
So there's 2 schools of thought on that. If you set a regular meeting at a certain time, let's say, what is this, the 3rd Tuesday? If you did that on a regular basis, that becomes your regular meeting. If you want to have a meeting between then, it becomes a special meeting and the whole quorum for voting changes. It becomes a 3/5 as opposed to simple majority. You can do that. If you choose to do that, the other option is you could say we're going to meet every 2 weeks, and if you don't need that second meeting, you don't hold that meeting, and there's no harm, no foul. So there's a couple of ways to do that. For this committee, my thought is that once a month should suffice, because whatever recommendations are being considered here, you need some time to put together. Let's say that you decide to do something, the members on the committee need the time to gather the facts for the presentation to the council. So Charles has a lot of experience in working with the council, so I'm just offering some insight from the mayor position. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was thinking once a month would be optimal, and then, like the mayor said, if we needed to, we could have a special meeting.
What, I think what she actually said is we should do a regular meeting every 2 weeks and
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna
and just
propose.
cancel if we don't have any pending business.
We could do, well, I mean, let's
Well-
just, you making a motion that we have a meeting every 2 weeks, and that if we need, we'll just,
I would make that motion, so.
Okay.
And, you know, we're gonna have nice, concise, short meetings starting at 6 PM. So any night of the week is good for me.
Okay.
I would suggest that 6:30 probably be the time, and there's, I mean, I
And
was
we can
able,
do that,
I was
yeah.
able to get here because I left work early. But all the other meetings are at 6:30, and I think that's kind of a consensus to allow people time to get
and
home.
that's fine.
Okay.
You made a motion that we have a
Okay.
meeting every 2 weeks. Should we set that on a Tuesday evening? What's this, the third Tuesday?
This is the fourth
This
Tuesday,
is the
actually.
fourth Tuesday. So the second and fourth Tuesday of
Okay,
the
so
month?
let me just give you an idea of another schedule that happens. So
Okay.
the second and the fourth Monday is animal control, and the second and fourth Thursday is city council. So if we want,
So you want to go to the first and third?
If we went first and third, then we would have the ability to meet, make a decision,
And get it
a
to
week
council.
to polish everything up to make a presentation to council. I would say that
And
being alternate weeks from council would really work to our advantage as far as being able to make good presentations.
Okay, so we'll do the first and third Tuesdays of, the motion is that we make it the first and third Tuesday at 6:30 PM at City Hall. And, so,
I'll second it.
who made the motion? You made the motion, Mr. Rufino?
no,
Charles made the motion.
Charles made the motion, yeah.
And John Crickmer second, okay?
Yeah, so that, the next meeting then would be on the 6th of August.
It would be, it's in 2 weeks.
So, is there any discussion on that? Does anybody have any,
Alternate plan?
yeah,
Does that work for everyone on the council? Okay.
okay. Do I, we have a motion by Charles and a second by John. Let's take a vote. Passed unanimously.
Okay. So you want to talk about the minutes on this one as well?
Yeah, the minutes.
We have meetings in agendas and meetings to go, or agendas and minutes to go.
Yeah. Well, let's go with the minutes first, and I'll make a motion that we rely on the recordings rather than a scribe. It would save time, and it'd probably be more, it would be better for anyone that wanted to review it.
Where
Go
will
ahead.
they be available, the minutes, to listen to them? Online
So
or?
there's a YouTube channel that's set up for the city, and it has some sub-channels. So we have animal control.
Okay.
We also have, what's the other one we just did?
Parks, or we're on parks?
Planning,
The planning.
Planning.
We'll add another one for the park, and they get posted there.
Okay.
Then the plan from that is that the city then on the website, so you have the agenda, and you'll have where it'll say minutes, it'll be a link to that YouTube, whatever that YouTube video or audio is. And it usually, it doesn't take very long. The shorter the meeting, of course, the quicker it goes up. It's just a very small conversion and has to happen, takes maybe 30 minutes to make it happen, so they're usually available certainly by the morning.
And so, that's what we'll do, rely on the recordings for the minutes, and they are available, as the mayor said, on the channel. So any of us that we can get the information of how to,
They'll actually be
Access
accessible
to-
from the web,
from the
from the city
website.
website.
Okay, good. So they're accessible from the city website, not to repeat everything. Okay,
You proposing?
He motioned.
I made a
Motion.
motion, yeah. Do
Yeah,
I have a
I'll second
second? Can I see a vote? Passed unanimously?
can I make a point of order, sir?
Sure.
You need to announce who seconded each motion as we
Okay.
go, since we're not taking notes.
Okay.
We're relying on recording.
Yeah, makes sense. Motion was made by
You?
Alderman Rapino and seconded by John Crickmeyer.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Charles, you mentioned something about
Agenda.
agenda.
Yes.
Agenda is
And-
also on that.
My thoughts on the agenda are, you know, we will discuss certain things, I guess, in the meeting that might come up, that improvements or anything about the park that we might want to explore. So, once we discuss it and we have people look into it, as the mayor was saying, or investigate what we might want to do, then we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting. And then, once we do that, that's how we'll develop the agenda. And anybody that has anything that they want to talk about can always call me and I can discuss it with somebody. Do we want to be able to, if somebody wants to have something on the agenda, are we going to go with the person that recommends and then somebody that co-sponsors?
I know for the city council, we do have the sponsor, co-sponsor.
I don't think we need it.
I don't know that that's necessary on a committee. I think if somebody just wants to bring it, they just get it to the chair or the co-chair.
Okay.
But
So-
that's your call.
In a
Right.
timely manner.
Yeah, in a timely manner, right.
Well, that might be a good thing to define. What is the deadline? So the meeting agenda has to be posted.
It's 72 hours.
Now, yes, 72 hours ahead of the meeting. So if you're doing a meeting on a Tuesday, that agenda has to be posted by
Thursday.
Friday.
Friday?
By
Oh,
Friday.
it's 3 days, not
Yeah.
3
Business
working
days.
days.
Close of
Yeah.
business, it's calendar days, yeah.
Calendar days.
It is calendar days. So, then in order, there's some finessing that goes on with the agenda, in order to keep them legal, so that we don't have,
Yeah,
people
I know what
throwing
you mean.
rocks at us. The city administrator, or Catherine's getting really good at it now. She will draft an agenda and then she will send it to the city attorney, who reviews it for wording, make sure that, everything that's on there is correct. And then she sends it back to Catherine with whatever notes. So in order to meet a Friday deadline, you probably need to set a Wednesday deadline for anything that the committee would want on their agenda that needs to be posted by Friday. That would be a suggestion.
Okay, that's the way we do it. I don't think we need a vote on that.
Actually, we do, sir.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay, you're the parliamentarian.
He's in charge.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that the agenda procedure would be, individual committee members will submit that to Alderman Rapino prior to by Wednesday evening, so that he can include it on the agenda, and the agendas will be posted on Friday.
Okay,
That's a
I'll
motion.
second that.
okay.
Can we see a show of hands on, oh wait, does that need discussion on that? I'm sorry, I'm learning quick.
Anyone have any?
Okay, so can I see a show of hands on adopting that?
This is bad. It's Dave. When you vote.
It passed unanimously. Alderman Rapino made the, no,
Charles?
Alderman,
No.
no longer an alderman. Charles made the motion and was seconded by Tom Rapino.
Okay.
Okay. Discuss and possible action on nominating and appointing a vice chairperson. anyone, would anyone like to volunteer for that job? And what that means that if for some reason I cannot be here, then that person would run the meeting.
And you can ask for volunteers, or you may ask for nominations.
I first ask for volunteers. Does anyone volunteer? And don't run me over with
Not all at once.
Okay, could I, then, since nobody seems to want to pick up the mantle, would anybody nominate?
I nominate John.
I second that.
Oh, that
I'm in favor.
was quick. No more
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah. Is there any discussion or are there any further
Well, I would,
nominations?
whenever there's a nomination made, as a courtesy, I like to ask the person being nominated if they would accept that
Oh,
nomination.
okay. I thought this was a dictatorship.
Because that was awfully quick.
Would you accept it, John?
I'll accept.
Okay. So, any discussion on that or other nominations? If not, I make a motion to accept John Crickmeyer as the co-chairperson.
Actually, Ann Garza made the,
She made the
Oh,
motion.
she
I
made
made the motion.
I thought she made the
And
nomination. Oh, that's right, yeah,
We
I'm
used to
sorry.
be friends.
All right, so,
she's made the nomination. Ruth.
If I find snakes in my
Seconded.
yard, I'm calling Rube.
Please do. She knows them better than I do.
okay, Ann
John
Garza.
accepting the nomination
Yeah.
and no objections and no other nominations made, we can now take a vote, sir.
Right. Okay, can we have a vote on accepting John as co-chairman?
Okay.
Motion carries, and John is now the co-chairman of the Parks Committee.
As your new vice chairman, I promise to attend meetings on time.
Well, we all can make,
Yeah, we have
a
to set
mistake
time.
once in a while. We already, it says discuss and possible action on setting date, time, and place of regular park committee meetings. We've already covered
Wait,
that.
wait, wait. What about number 6?
6, did I skip one? I better put my glasses on. Okay, 6, discuss and possible action on procedures for making recommendations to the city council. And I suppose once the committee comes up with a recommendation or something they would like to do, and it is, we have all the details of what it would take to actually accomplish what we want to do, that then I would take it to the council meeting. I'll take it to Catherine. She will put it on the agenda.
So, remember, for city council meetings, it's a sponsor, co-sponsor.
Sponsor, yes.
Or you can bring it to me and I'll put it on there. So the council has 2 ways to get it on the agenda. It's up to you how you want to do it.
Okay. So
Whichever
that
way
would
you
be
wanna do
follow
it.
the regular procedures for getting items on the council agenda.
And
from-
I think perhaps when we put together the procedures for the city council, we didn't have committees in place. So maybe that's an option for in the future, that it would be a sponsor, a co-sponsor, the mayor, or a committee chair would make sense. That way, we'll talk about that in the future, but
Yeah.
it just kind of makes sense now that we have these other groups.
Okay, then I make a motion that once we come up with items that we want to present to council, I would either take it as the chairperson, or I would ask the mayor to get it on the agenda, or I could get a co-sponsor, and if two people want to make get an agenda item, they can let me know, and we can take it to the city clerk or city secretary and get it on the agenda. Once we've decided that this is what we want to do.
I think that's workable for an interim measure, but I also think that council should consider adopting how they want to receive reports from all the
We can do that. yeah.
I agree.
Because if we decide we're gonna do it one way, and animal control decides they're gonna do something else, and planning decides they're gonna do something else.
So
then we
why,
should-
yeah, why don't we just bring that up? I'll get a sponsor.
Don't worry about it. We have some other issues we have to address related
Okay.
to that, so we'll just include that. in the
As an
future
interim
discussion.
measure, we'll go with, we'll talk
Right.
to you, and then you can talk to Mayor Ball or
Or Kaplan.
Ken Roberts.
Yeah,
And,
okay, yeah.
Or you can find another alderman to co-sponsor
Co-sponsor.
with you to bring something to full council.
Okay, we'll use all of those.
Whatever options are
they're
available.
yeah.
There you go. Okay, so that's a motion?
Yes.
I second it.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, can we have a show
You
of
need to,
hands?
you need to
for-
call the, you need to
Oh, that's
mention
right.
the first and second.
Okay. I made the motion, you
And I
seconded it.
second it.
Ann seconded it. I made the motion, Tom Rapino.
And now?
And can we see a show of hands of everybody that approves? It passed unanimously. Okay, and we already handled 7,
So you want to pull that one?
yeah.
You need to say that.
Okay, we've already accomplished setting a time and date for future meetings, so I'm going to remove number 7 from the agenda. Pull it.
Okay?
Okay, discuss and possible action on selecting and prioritizing topics for the next park committee meeting. So in a way, we've talked about doing that already by coming up with, items and getting it to me before the next meeting. I would ask if there's any pressing issue right now that we might want to talk about. And I think a lot of input would probably come from the constituency, but we'd have to consider it because there are things as far as budget. I mean, I think there's a million things that the people want.
Well, I think we should make it a priority to involve the community,
Yeah,
just because there's a lot of feelings out there. We don't get a choice. I'm sorry, this is America. You do have a choice, and
yeah. Well, we can take,
but we need to make a special effort to reach out to the community, to become involved with, do you want a park?
how do you suppose we should do that by putting it on? John, you have something?
Yeah, I don't know if we should, but we might consider something in the newsletter, a little survey, maybe 3 or 4 questions. What do you see for an improvement?
We could highlight some ideas to think about in the newsletter. Remember, we have limited space, but to generate some interest to kind of get the juices flowing, so to speak. But I would recommend that we have a couple of different options for receiving that feedback. One would be perhaps we have printed copies here in the building that they could come pick up. The other would be a form on the website that they could fill out, or sending an email or something, but define the questions, and then of course always give some free flow for things, because that's the beauty of multiple heads, is you get things you didn't think about, somebody else has thought about.
Does it always have to be like very official, or can it be done like us on
For
our
something
own?
like that, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I
You
can
could-
put up a post on Nextdoor or Facebook.
You
and
certainly
that
can.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of a
That's what I was
committee
thinking.
as opposed to the council. You all are free to speak publicly with anybody and everybody. There's no,
Rules or.
I don't think, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you will. I don't think there is a walking quorum issue from a committee standpoint because you're not elected officials.
We're not in a
Exactly.
legislative action.
Exactly.
And the way I read it in the Open Meetings Act is that unless, the only reason that we should go by, we should use the Open Meetings Act is because there could be some misinterpretation where it would look like there was some collusion or
Exactly.
some thing. So it's always good to go by the Open Meetings Act.
And I think we have that down here for
Yeah,
number 9 to
yeah, we
discuss.
do.
And
Yeah.
it's,
Actually, what it said was if there's no or if there's no quorum of elected officials on the committee, it's not really,
well, that's not the whole story.
no, and that's what I was saying. If it can be
If-
misconstrued,
If council has a habit of rubber stamping a committee's ideas,
and that's
then we get
exactly
into
what
the
the
open meetings
misconception
thing.
could be.
And if you have a good committee and they do their homework, uh, you know, the committees actually are here to assist council in doing their job.
Exactly.
Because you're a councilman, you've been a councilman.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot more work than people think it is.
Yeah, it is.
So, you know, our job is to assist city council on making valid and valuable decisions in this area of the city. So,
And I don't think that they would rubber stamp everything, but that's the idea of not, of not just going open, without using the Open Meetings Act, so that we,
Cute.
I think it,
so I think we should follow it, and,
I think just to make sure everybody is on the same page, we should task ourselves with completing the Open Meetings Act.
I-
oh, well, that was coming up, that's
Yeah,
on,
the next
number
item.
9, yeah. So, I wasn't getting there yet, but.
Okay, but our priorities are, well, I think is talking to the people in the city.
Exactly.
Well, I agree.
I think that's our number one priority.
I mean, I couldn't see how, any other way to do it
No.
because of all the, we've known all of the things that come up
Exactly.
about the park. I
Right.
mean, it's been going on since I've been on council, that everybody wants this, that, or the other thing. So we need, the input from the community.
Yep.
If we don't do it that way, then
Right.
we'll fail.
And I'll tell you that I did do some surveys of the community before I was elected. And there was an interesting outcome from that. We have a baseball field out here. Granted, it needs a lot of work to become a baseball field again. What I found very interesting from the survey results was there really wasn't interest in a baseball field. You know what they want? They want a soccer field. So, that's one of the beauties of a committee like this, who's going to reach out, I talk to 6 people, you talk to 6 people, it just kind of goes on, but try to figure out, there's volleyball, sand volleyball out there. There was some interest in that. There's interest in a pool and a splash pad. I'll give you a little hint about a splash pad. Not on the horizon.
Yeah, no, I can only
The
imagine.
low end is about $250,000.
No, I believe it.
Very expensive.
So, and that's.
Ours will be water hoses and sprinklers.
But
I'm
that's
good
al-
with that.
That's also the
Get a
committee's
slip and
job.
slide.
We had as kids.
It's also the committee's job when we do get input from the community. If it isn't something that can be readily accomplished, that we at least make an effort to make it understood so that we don't get what we get. We never do what we
Pe-
want.
Yeah.
People have a hard time understanding that the city doesn't print money.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
you took my $28 last year. And
I want
by gosh-
56 in
And by
return.
gosh, I want it all
well,
put in the park. Well,
Right.
you know, we have other things that we have to do as a city, but
so that's what I think we should do. Put
So-
out the
But-
surveys. But we have to decide how we're going to do that. Who's going to do what? Rue, you already volunteered to put it on.
Next door,
Next
yeah,
door.
see, I actually
And I can
wanted
put it
to-
on the Facebook page. I mean, we
Okay.
have a number of channels to work with. I think what I would ask is
Do-
from this committee, come up with some talking points, some suggested ideas, some things to think about so that, because I've been waiting to publish the newsletter because there's a lot of stuff in the works and we don't publish it very often. So I want to make sure that I take advantage of this next publication to get some good information out there.
Do you think we should standardize the survey that we put out there? I mean, so.
In what way?
I mean, are we going to just ask, do we have, are there suggestions for, upgrading the park? Or do we want to, is that what we're going to do, or do we?
Well, so just kind of thinking back, there were kind of some little areas. Safety was a concern. There was lighting was a concern, okay? A smooth surface to walk was a concern. You could consider that safety. Activities was another area. Sports was another area. So maybe if you segment it, figure out what your segments need to be. Some people may, like me, I don't care about the sports. That's not what I'm interested in. But, a morning yoga class in the pavilion, I might drag my, what out of bed and get down there for that. Or walking groups in the afternoon, or
Play dates, that's what
play
I've been thinking
dates.
about.
Well, that's.
One thing I talked with John and Rue about a couple of years ago was what I would like. They're very knowledgeable on the flora and fauna out here. And I said, how about the two of you get together and let's do some education things for kids or people who just want to know in general.
So that's what I was getting at. Do we want to have categories where people can make suggestions for the pavilion, for the, sports, for safety? So do we want to put that up on the website? Please submit your ideas for these categories so that we can improve the park.
What my thought was around that is, why don't you have each of the committee members send you an email with what items they think would work, and then together y'all come up with a survey form, some kind of survey form.
Okay, so.
And then from that survey form, then Rue would have something to work with on Nextdoor. We'll have something, I may have to condense it for the newsletter, have something for Facebook, we'll have something for the website, and really start getting some input there.
So, then I would, as the mayor just suggested, would you send me emails with your suggestions for the categories, and then I guess we'll need to discuss what comes up and sort of work on a survey or a standardized type of
Yep.
Do you have a time frame for that? Because what I was thinking was like what Rue had said was, talking to your friends and neighbors or people that that come down here, maybe getting some input from them to go into this.
Well, we can do that as well as the other portions of it, so we could start right away and have something to put out now. I mean, we could talk about it right now. I mean,
I have one question, one
Okay.
topic. Someone mentioned to me that on the walking trail, there was some heavy brush where people with ill intent might be hiding and lurking and whatnot. Is that part of the,
That would be
could
part
we
of,
clear some of that? And-
that would
That'd be
definitely be something that
safety.
that the committee could consider and present to council, so.
yeah.
And lighting as well.
Lighting is an issue as well. I'll tell you another thing to consider is, and we just witnessed it outside, cell service down here.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And my concern with that is that's a safety issue. Because if somebody gets hurt down here and you can't make a call, that's a problem. I have something I'm working with on CPS side that maybe will alleviate that, and it will cost us this much. But just keeping in mind health and safety, you know, just like you said, the brush, the lights, being able to call in, you know, in an event of an emergency, those type of things.
Well, until we then come up with something standardized, can each of us poll our neighbors and friends and come up with some subjects that we might want to explore at the next meeting?
Okay. While we're on item 8 here, are we going to only talk about this park, or are we gonna talk about our 22-acre scenic and
Let's
natural
start
park?
with this park.
Yeah.
Well, and the issue with the other park is that, it's not on our horizon yet, and it may not be for a couple of years, and it's definitely a grant option I wanna
Well,
pursue,
and that's-
and there's some stuff that has to happen before we even get to the grant discussion.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, is because, you know, it's basically a wilderness area.
It is.
Where is that?
And,
We were
it's a
telling
dead.
you.
We may go catch some snakes.
Come here, and I'll
It's
show you.
a dead. Yeah, it's on the map.
Is this where you're putting the road across?
Yes.
Yeah.
So will that interfere
So the
with
road is gonna cross here. This is a natural spring area. And it runs, this is Waterwood Pass, and this is Battle Canyon. And it runs
I know
all
where
the
it
way
is.
the length back here.
I'm sorry.
I know where it is, because
Now, it's very natural. There, right now, at this, there's bollards to keep people, because people were driving through there. We had
used to have a
San Antonio
big
River Board
sign
come out
park
and talk to
when
us.
the-
That's how we found out it
when
was a
this
natural
place
spring.
first,
And it needs to be
like
protected.
29 years ago. it
That's
was
not water,
identified
that
as a
is
park.
public use. This is the big park.
This
Yes.
is where we're at, and this is a 22-acre, from the.
That's
Long
what
and
I would
narrow.
love to see is a walking and
Long
biking
and
trail.
narrow.
Yeah.
Into Mathis, all the way to here,
Oh.
Waterwood Pass.
to Waterwood Pass.
And what you don't see,
There's,
there's a pond, there's a fishing pond
yeah,
down here.
Yeah, behind the,
So, there's,
You go in
even though it is
You
wilderness
can
right
go in
now,
there?
you can, but
it's
it's not,
still-
it's all overgrown and
there's more to it than just
You'd be
cutting and
risking.
mowing.
Yeah, no,
getting
I
bit
know.
by
So, there are grant
Yeah.
programs that are
But-
available.
and that's the reason I bring it up now, is because, you know, Texas Parks and Wildlife has some.
USDA,
a
Forest
lot of
Service.
grant money, USDA.
To preserve it.
To preserve small natural areas.
Exactly.
In an urban environment.
Very cool.
But you don't walk in there on Friday and get a check on Monday.
It's a 2 or 3 year
Yeah,
process.
it's a
And,
long
and in our
time.
case, it's probably a little longer than that, because until we have an economic survey completed, we can't qualify for any grant. So, we gotta work on, that's,
And grants
Right.
are not easy to get unless you really
yes.
Some
apply
are harder
yourself.
than others.
Some
Yeah,
are
well,
harder
there
than
are
others.
some that are just, they're throwaway, but they're not big money.
But when you get into conservation like this, those are somewhat a little easier to get, and they're not as costly as some of the bigger grant projects for roads and streets and buildings and whatever else. So that one should be doable, but it's not on the near horizon.
No, it's not on the front burner,
No.
but we all need to be aware of it.
Exactly.
Because
A lot of people don't know that that exists.
I know that.
Yeah.
Some people think maybe it's just a dump, and
Yeah.
we
Right.
need to,
I was just telling them when I first moved in here, they had big signs up in that area saying park.
yeah.
And
Now, another subject that, to go right along with that is, all of these parks used to belong to the Wildwood Homeowners Association. Our 22-acre lot, or 22-acre park there's one lot directly across Waterwood Pass that still belongs to the Waterwood Park Homeowners Association. Yes, ma'am.
I will check into that.
Okay? Because if we ever get a walking trail,
We need a parking
we
place.
need a parking
Yes,
place.
we do.
And, there's also a small area that it joins onto White Oak that,
Well, there are also two other,
yeah, those are ditches, ma'am, we can't hardly park.
oh,
on them.
are they, because I have yet to figure out exactly where they are
No,
and what,
those are the two.
they're ditches.
Ditches.
Okay, because I was thinking if we could put bollards up to mark them as I thought maybe there was enough room to pull in and park.
Only if you're on a bicycle.
Okay,
okay, so the order is that we will all poll our friends and neighbors to see if there are any issues they would like us to discuss and prioritize for future adoption. And then those that we do consider to be viable projects, then we could bring that, I would bring it to the council.
well, what I think might work best, you're gonna meet again in 2 weeks.
Yep.
So y'all take the time to gather, come back to the table with that, develop
that's-
your, from that,
That's what I was.
okay. Before it's presented to council.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't present it to council this time, so we need to collect it for the next council meeting. Will we need a motion for that parliamentary? Or we just,
Well, we are,
that's just so.
you are,
We
it
are-
is an action item.
It is an action
Okay.
item, so, yes,
Okay, I'll make the motion then that we contact our friends and neighbors and
and
in 2 weeks,
social
come
and
back.
social media.
and social media, and then in 2 weeks, come back with viable ideas that we can then discuss and possibly take forward to the council. Do I have a second for that?
I second it.
Ruth seconds it.
Okay.
Tom Rapino made the motion. Is there any discussion? If not, can I get a vote on that? All in favor, say aye. Motion passes.
Perfect. And that was unanimous.
Yes, it was unanimous. Okay. 9, and we discussed this a little bit already, but I will just, does anyone want to discuss or have any opposition to using the Open Meetings Act and
okay.
everyone getting the...
Parliamentarian's gonna speak again, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
We don't open for discussion until we actually have a motion to,
These things are so educational for me.
Okay.
well, city council has a different rule, but,
Yes.
in a normal Roberts, you read the agenda item, and somebody will
Make
make
a
a
motion.
motion,
Okay.
and,
All right.
and
I
then
will-
we discuss.
Then we discuss.
Okay, I'll read the agenda item. Number 9, discuss and possible action on completing Open Meeting Act training if needed. And I know some of you already have the training, but does anyone want to make a motion so that all the committee members,
Is that how you're gonna do it? Is a motion and a
Yeah,
second
well-
before discussion?
I would, I'd make a motion that, we discuss the agenda item, but, I'll step right on out and make a motion that this committee voluntarily, agrees to complete the Open Meeting Act training.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
So I do want to offer some insight on that.
Okay.
The training itself is online. It takes about an hour. It's not as bad as watching paint dry. It's a close second. But I think it is, the more people in the city who know and understand the Open Meetings Act, I think it benefits everyone.
I agree.
And there's no harm, no foul for doing the training. You get a little certificate you can print out. It will help understand some other things as well. And you can do it at your own time.
And is that training still on the Secretary of State's
Yes.
website?
Yes,
So that's
the Attorney
where you
General.
go.
Attorney General's
Attorney
website.
General,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Yes, it is. So if you don't mind, would you get the link and share that with your members here?
I will.
Okay.
It's educational. I enjoyed the training. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, because you'll hear things, we'll say like walking quorum, and you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about. But then you will know. And it'll help understand how the council works, why things happen the way they do, so. So you have a motion and a second.
Right. There is no further discussion, then can I, will all that is in favor say aye?
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Perfect.
The motion was made by Charles and was seconded by Tom, and it carried unanimously.
Okay.
I make a motion we adjourn for this day.
I'll second that.
And it is what time?
It is now 7:28.
PM. Okay.